I mean, what in the world? We have this body that never lies to us. It always tells the truth, and we want to not listen to it sometimes.
You are listening to the DrHaley Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you optimize your health. Each episode, there will be an interview or a message to help you discover better health. We will be featuring health radicals on the show to bring new ideas to the table, as well as doubling down on key fundamentals to support you living your best life. Your host is no other than the founder of Haley Nutrition, Dr. Michael Haley.
This is the DrHaley Show podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Haley, your show host, and today's guest is Janet McConnel from Scottsdale, Arizona. Janet is a public speaker, a motivational speaker of types. She's a health coach. She's author of the book Elements of Aging Well, and also owner of IgniteFitnessWithJanet.com. Is that right?
That's right. That's my website.
Okay. So everyone has that on the front end, so you can go check her out right now. In fact, Janet, I have to ask you about that because I went to your website and I went to a blog tab and there was a blog post. I forget the exact name of the post, but there was like a before and after photo. That was really you in the before and after, right?
Yes.
Wow. Amazing. Two different people.
Librarian, bodybuilder.
And that the bodybuilding photo was absolutely amazing. Who does that with their body? Who holds themselves to that kind of standard to get in that kind of shape? I want to dig a little deeper into that, though. In this discussion, I want to go into some of the tricks and stuff. I want to know a little bit about bodybuilding. And we'll also talk about real life health and wellness,
right,
and fitness, because there is a difference, right?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Okay.
I'm here for this. Let's go.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you to that point of needing a transformation and deciding this was the path you were going to go on?
Well, the pictures that you saw are an outflow from a major thunderstorm in my life, struck by lightning and ready for destruction, because that's what happens to some people. You know, when people have a life crisis, midlife crisis, call it whatever you want, it happens at different times in our lives. But everybody does something different. Some people buy a Corvette. Some people, travel around the world. I became a bodybuilder. I started, I guess, as a child, I was always very athletic and really healthy, just was raised very healthfully, and entered into my young adulthood, launched myself into a corporate career that included lots and lots of travel. So I was flying all over the country, Puerto Rico and the United States. And so it was multiple times a month. So it was a lot of disruption. It was very hard to have a routine where you eat right, exercise right. Plus, I was in my 20s, 30s, early 40s. I was healthy. I mean, you really get a lot of grace during that period of your life where you can be doing really destructive things. And if you don't go too far, everybody's kind of the same. You're okay. You don't look any different. But then something happens where it all comes crashing down. And it came crashing down for me in my I think it was my 46th year, where I went for a physical, just an annual physical, and my blood work came back and it was abysmal. All of my numbers were in the red. And at the same time, I felt great. I mean, I had the energy. I noticed I was exhausted on the weekends. I was really kind of getting to the point where I was burning the candle at both ends. But that was really the only indicator that I thought maybe I should think about changing something. But when my doctor delivered the news of her early heart disease and slid the prescriptions across the table at me, here you go, because that's the solution, right? Unfortunately, that is the
You know what's crazy about that? Because the doctors will look at numbers and they'll say, this is too high, this is too low, and we're going to give you a chemical to change that.
Mhm.
Now, here's the question I have, and I didn't write this question, but if you give drugs to a healthy person, does it make them more healthy?
Probably
If
not.
not, how can giving drugs to a sick person make them more healthy?
I've never heard
There
the
has to be a
question.
better way.
Yeah,
There has to be a better way.
yeah. I've never heard the question asked like that, but that's a good way to ask that question. If it's not going to get you healthier, but that's, there's a lot to modern medicine. We have a lot of great things like being able to fight disease and do surgery and mechanically fix things. And there are some applications that are okay, and helpful. But
here's my disclaimer. I'm going to tell my people right now, because they know I'm like the non-medicine guy. I took a drug today.
that's right.
Twice a year I go to the dentist and have my teeth cleaned, and my mouth is a waterfall, which I'm told is a very healthy thing. I take an antihistamine to stop that so I don't drown while I'm getting my teeth cleaned.
Right.
And I'm the benefit is, okay, well, I had my teeth taken care of. I think medicine has a time and place, and it can help someone live and buy time.
Yeah.
If needed. If your blood pressure is 300 over 200, okay, that's too high, this is dangerous, we got to get something under control while you're figuring out what's causing it to be that way, so you can change things and fix it.
Right.
If things are broken, I don't want to be in such pain that I want to kill myself.
Right.
There's place for medicine.
There is.
And I'm glad they can put me out if they have to put me back together.
Right.
I don't want to be awake during that process. There's a place
Exactly.
for medicine. So what did you do when the doctor said take all of these drugs?
Well, that was the thunderstorm, because I felt like there was this voice, silent scream in the back of my head. The little girl in me who could beat the boys at swimming and running and, always had this really healthy body, said, Janet, you haven't even given your body a chance. You're just going from here to here and not, what about all that other stuff your body knows? And I'm really glad I listened to that voice, because I just dug my heels in, and I knew the drugs were there for me if I really needed it. But what if there's something I can do in between? And so fortunately, my doctor, we had a pretty good relationship. I'd known him for a number of years, and he trusted me, and he was shocked too. And so I just said, listen, give me 6 months. Let me try to do something. And he's like, oh, here we go. Here's somebody buying time because they're scared. But he said, okay, all right. Nothing's going to happen in the next 6 months. It's going to get worse. So let's make the appointment right now. And you'd better show up. I know where you live, and go see what you can do.
This is getting good. I want to come back to this in just a second.
Yeah.
I want to throw something out there, and people, if you're listening to this on iTunes and you don't have the visual, this is one to go to YouTube on. And I want you to see who Janet is. Janet, we're going to throw something out there and talk more about it as we go.
Okay.
You were how old when you were at the doctor?
46.
And about how many years ago was that?
I'm going to be 70 in a year and a half.
Okay.
So do the
people,
math.
If you're looking at Janet, that's fine. That's a good way of I wouldn't have wanted to do the math on the fly either. So gonna be 70.
Yeah.
All right. Born in what year?
1956. So my next
for the
birthday.
people that are watching this years down the road, they don't have to do the math now either. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, when you have to fill out an application and ask your birth year, and you have to spin it like a roulette wheel until you get to your year. It was, as I tell my young clients, it's like, it was a century ago.
This is a funny way of looking at it, though. The reality is, you said you're going to be 70 in a year, right?
Year and a half. Yeah.
Okay, because technically we're living our next year.
Right.
When you turn one,
Mhm. You're already
your
one.
first year is already gone. You're living your second year.
That's a good point.
So I'm coming up on 58,
Mhm.
so I'll be living my 59th year in just a couple of weeks.
That's right.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
but somehow we're making decisions that give us all kind of strength and energy and ability. So you told the doctor I need 6 months, and
Mhm.
let's see what I can do. How'd you do?
I went out to my car and just burst into tears because I had no idea what I was going to do. I made a bargain and I had zero plan. So I was like, what have I done? But I just knew I couldn't start with his plan. So I was thinking about it, and I talked to one of my bosses about it, and she had a good trainer she seemed to like. And she said, why don't you start there? Just hire a trainer and start. And so I did. And I loved it. So this trainer, there's many different kinds that teach all different modalities. This particular trainer just happened to be bodybuilding resistance training. So progressive overload, working all the muscles, working on posture and balance and stability and so on and so forth. So I signed up because I was on a short leash here. 6 months is not long. I signed up for 3 days a week, 1 hour a day at 5 a.m. when nobody was awake. So there was no barrier. I thought, I cannot let anything get in my way here. I can't let, a surprise meeting or whatever. I can't do that. So that's what I did. And I started out and I just loved it. So even though it was hard to change my habit to be more of a early bird, I was always a morning person, but not that early. And so I just slowly changed and just, I knew that if I got up and got there and got in the door, that's all I had to do. And my trainer would take me by the hand and lead me through the exercises. And I didn't have to think. I just did what he said. And lo and behold, 6 months later, not changing my diet at all. I was still buying a pound of yogurt covered pretzels and keeping them in my car console. And it was horrible. It was like,
Yeah, yogurt covered when it's on a pretzel is another name for white chocolate.
it's really not yogurt. Anyway, I lost 30 pounds just doing that. And so I went back to my doctor and I had lost the weight. I was still a little fluffy, but I was way better. And all of my labs came back in the normal, if somewhat on the higher end of normal. It wasn't in the red anymore. So he goes, all right, don't quit. So I just kept going. So I was fine with that and kind of didn't really have any other motivations or agendas. And then one day, these two women walked in and they were going to start training with this trainer at the same time as me across the room. And they were just a little bit younger than me by a few years. And they looked incredible. They were ripped. I was like, how do you get like that's impossible? They must be freaks of nature. So I asked my trainer about it and they go, oh, yeah, they're going to be training for the next month or two with this trainer on a very concentrated program. And I said, well, I just watched them. And they were lifting. I noticed they were lifting the same weights that I was lifting, 20 pounds, 15 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever I was doing. So I was just as strong as them. And I thought, why do they look like that? And I look like this. So I asked my trainer, and he goes, oh, well, they're getting ready for a bodybuilding show. They're going to be on stage in 5 weeks. So they have to eat strategically. And I was like, well, what's that? You mean 3 meals a day? I'm doing that, plus some snacks. And he said, oh, no. He says, it's very strict and measured. And it's really hard. Everybody quits. You wouldn't like it. I think he was afraid that I'd try it and not like it, and then he'd lose a good client, So I said, "You mean all I have to do to look like that is eat differently?" And he said, "Yes, that's it. You're doing all the bodybuilding stuff."
The way you say it sounds so easy. That's all I have to do.
Oh yeah, but that's my mindset. See, because by then I already knew that I always thought that to look like that you had to lift really heavy, and you don't. You have to lift correctly and consistently, correctly and
Well,
consistently.
tell me about the consistently, because you were doing 3 hours a week.
Hmm.
Did that change?
Yeah, that was all I did. 3 hours a week.
Even all right, even training to be on stage.
Yes, it never changed. 3 hours a week. But that hour was very strategic, very concentrated, and had a
Yeah.
certain and just I did do a little bit of cardio, but because of my body type, if I do too much cardio and overdo it, then it works against me because it would cause me to burn muscle a little bit. And I didn't want to burn off what I had worked so hard to build. I had the muscle under there, just still had a little bit of a padding on top.
You enjoying the show thus far? One of the many health secrets that we have covered on the show is all around aloe vera, specifically drinking raw aloe vera. Our aloe vera has helped our customers effectively heal their gut, increase their intestine health, lower inflammation in the body, eliminate and/or decrease acid reflux, have glowing skin and hair, and so much more. Now, as a frequent member of our audience, you will be exposed to exclusive specials and coupon codes for the awesome products manufactured by Haley Nutrition. That's right, for simply being awesome and tuning in, you can get a mini discount to help you optimize and better your health. To see how we can help and support you on your health journey, tune into the episodes and listen for coupon codes that you can use at www.haleynutrition.com before you make your orders of raw aloe vera. Once again, it's www.haleynutrition.com. Now, back to the show.
How do you feel about bodybuilding as far as a healthy lifestyle?
It can be very healthy. There is a stigma around it that bodybuilders eat boiled chicken and steamed cabbage and, eat like a little handful of almonds and a protein shake, and it's not well-rounded and such. But if you want to look conditioned and healthy on stage, which is part of what you're judged on, you'd better have nice, tight, clear skin and smooth, smooth muscles, and very you have to be shaped a certain way. And if you are abusing your body by what you eat and how you exercise, you won't look good. You have to pay attention to that, because that is part of it. Is it's a healthy look, not scrawny or overtrained, if that makes sense.
I got you. And I would imagine because of the discipline that's required, which carries over and spills over into all other areas of your life, from, business to family and relationships and success. I would imagine that does make for a healthy lifestyle in those ways as well.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to look at it, though, and say your health, if we were to measure health, we might look at it from a survival of the fittest perspective. I think bodybuilding is awesome, and I used to, play in it. It was all about for some people, it's not about trying to win prizes.
Right.
You don't have to set those kinds of standards to enjoy the benefits of bodybuilding. I call it the LBN factor. You want your LBN factor to be high.
What's that?
What's that stand for? Yeah, exactly. Look better naked.
Yeah.
As we age, things are changing and we're not happy with it. We don't have to take it to the extent of being able to win that trophy.
No.
But, what if you're just happy with your physical ability and health perspective, and we don't have to starve ourselves to look better naked. We just have to be healthy, get
Well,
rid of some of the excess weight that's wearing us down and raising our blood sugar levels and raising our blood pressure and wreaking havoc on our health.
well, yes. And bodybuilders don't starve themselves or they won't look good. They don't. They just have to eat a certain way and they have to get enough calories to keep from losing their muscles. But yes, you were right. And that is one of the biggest ahas I had as I pivoted to becoming a personal fitness trainer next, which was after all the career stuff was over. I did this next. And I was my first big lesson that my clients taught me was, Janet, we don't want to be bodybuilders. And so I had to really think about what I was, I was so evangelical about how wonderful, what a big, you saw the pictures. It was fabulous, but then not everybody wants that. And a trophy was never why I did it. I just wanted, it was up here. I wanted this reward for what I saw could be possible. And I achieved that. But people just want to feel good in their skin. They want to feel vibrant, healthy, have the energy to sprint up a staircase and be able to carry their luggage and golf without hurting themselves. And they like biking and hiking and being active. Then we train for that. And so I learned to do that.
I'm in the pickleball phase of my life.
Yeah.
Have you played pickleball?
Yes. Shoulders. Watch out.
Okay. Well, there's also a lot of quick movements though. And at my age, I want to make sure that I'm not going to trip over my own feet trying to do something too quick and wipe out.
Right.
Right. So for me, it's about coordination and balance.
Yes.
For someone else, it might be, just being able to button their shirt up.
Yes.
And regaining the balance and ability to be independent and prepare their own foods.
Yes. It's everybody
so when it comes to
goal.
fitness.
Yeah. It's true.
I think of one of my patients. I'm a chiropractor, and one of my patients, 30 years ago, and I couldn't relate to him. I didn't understand. I didn't realize that this was a challenge for people. And at the time, I think if I recall, he was about 45 years old. And he said, Doc, when I go number 2, I can't wipe. I can't reach to what you can't even take care of yourself because of whether it's the pain or the lack of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just need to be able to do the basics in life. Mm-hmm. And training can help you do that.
Yes. Yeah, training is for life. And I often will, instead of calling an exercise what bodybuilders would call it, I call it what it is functionally in the real world. And so, one of the things we do are the little chair squats where you sit on a chair and stand up and sit down so that you repetitively more than you would in real life. So you build up that strength. But one of my clients renamed it the toilet squats because I said, the last step before going into a home is if you can't get up and down off a toilet by yourself. So we're going to train so that we can put that off as long as possible. And then they stop whining about how much it's uncomfortable, because, oh, well, I've got a bigger goal here.
Yeah. So, people listening to this, we're not talking about, getting in shape so you can compete someday.
No.
Some of you might want that.
Yeah.
And why not then?
Right.
If that's your goal.
Yeah.
But your goals might be able to, being able to pick up your grandchildren.
Without throwing your back out.
Without throwing your back out. Why should someone have a trainer to help them in that process?
Well, trainers have the knowledge of how the body works and the experience on their own selves to know what pain is when it's injury and what pain is when it's just effort. And so part of what I think my job is to guard people against hurting themselves so that they can get stronger, because there's nothing worse than, going to the gym by yourself, doing something incorrectly and then being hurt, and then it hurts more and then you don't want to go. So you take a break. And then when you come back, you're weaker. The whole thing is it's too demotivating. So if you have at least somebody in the beginning to get you going and to teach you everything. If you don't, most of my clients I've had for 10 years. I have a faithful bunch that is with me till the end. But then I have other people that just come to me for a short while. One lady wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro for her 60th birthday. Now, she was a hiker. She did lots of little hikes and stuff, but I had to make a program for her so that she could be ready for the rigors of something like that. And I had never done that before, so I had to study up on it. Just, yeah, I can do it. Let me go read and see how to do it, and trained her on that. And so that's a good example of a very specific goal. And then she was done, and she was fine to go back to her regularly scheduled hiking. So people a lot of times have a physical achievement. I have an 82-year-old who got her scuba diving certification because she wanted to scuba dive in the Great Barrier Reef of Australia at 82. So she was already a badass. But she realized that she would have trouble dragging those tanks on the deck and, getting her gear assembled so that she could be ready to go down.
They are heavy.
Yeah, she didn't like it that everybody had to help her. And she said, that's what I want to train for. So I trained her for
even
that.
Getting it on you and working yourself into the water is enough work if you're not putting it on, strapping up in the water.
Yeah, how to drag something heavy, how to use your body properly to lift something heavy, and then how to put heavy things on in a safe way.
Yeah. As you're saying that, it's funny. And as I'm thinking of you and looking at you and what you've done, I'm thinking of one of my customers. I met him about 10 years ago. And his name's Tom Ellison. And I'm backing up to do the little demonstration because I walk in my office. And when I looked at him, and I would never look at you and think that you were retired. And I didn't. Yeah, I looked at him, and that was the first observation. I'm just, what an interesting person.
Yeah.
So what I said to him is, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? And the man, 80 years old. He's 80 years old. He gets up from his chair, goes, I'm a personal trainer,
Awesome.
And he stands up, 80 years old, personal trainer. Wow. Well, I've known him for, nearly 15 years now since then, and he's still a personal trainer.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I'm the chiropractor, and he goes, let me give you some tips. And he's trying to straighten me up. Work with your posture there, chin up. Okay, not that far. He's pushing on my, belly and say, no, straighten up yourself here. You got to get fit and stuff. You're all crooked. You're a chiropractor. You should know these things. It was funny, but
funny.
The guy at 80 years old looked like he could, still bench press a couple of 100 pounds and do squats with a couple of 100 pounds on his shoulders.
Sure.
When we talk about aging, what is aging? Is it a number? Is it a health status? For him, clearly, it's not about the age,
Right.
because there's a huge gap between him and, heck, if he went to one of his high school reunions, he might be the only one there.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
How do you look at aging? What is it?
Well, I call it longevity and healthy longevity. So longevity is how long you live. What is the number you get to in your life before you die? Healthy longevity is paying attention to what the last 10 or 15 years are for your experience during that last bit of your life, and what do you want it to be? And if you have, I think people are afraid of getting old because they look around and see examples that they don't like. And some of them are in their own family, their own gene pool. And I think that people need to understand that part of that fear is that there are things we love doing in this life. Each of us, as individual as we are, there's things you love doing. And there's this idea that as you get older, you're going to have to slowly peel away each little joy, each little thing you love doing, and you don't. The trick is you have to train for it. So if you love travel, if you love pickleball, whatever it is that you love, you have to train for it. And by training for it, I mean, if you do nothing, you're not going to get stronger just playing your game or just traveling or just biking. You're going to stay at this certain level with a slow, steady decline. So the only way you can level the field and keep that decline at bay is to train harder than what that activity is. I use the metaphor sometimes, if anybody who's a baseball fan, when the batter, the next one, the one that's on deck, is warming up, swinging the bat around and getting his shoulder warmed up. And one thing they do is they put a weight on the end of the bat and they swing it around because it's heavier than the real bat. They take that weight off, they go up to bat, and they swing so hard because they were holding a bat that was heavier. So you want to hold the heavy bat right now so that when you get older, you can take that weight off and you're just going to fly. Does that make sense?
And no, it sure does. We have to challenge ourselves, and it'd be great if we could be prepared for more than we'll actually need to use.
Yeah.
So, sure. It's funny. I'm at that point in my life. I had stopped working out a long time ago, and my wife had said something to me a couple months ago. It convinced me to start going to the gym again. I've literally taken like 30 years off or so, from the gym.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm sharing this is because I'm sure someone's listening that can relate, that they're out of shape and they wonder if they can get back in shape.
Yeah.
For me, it's only been, I'm going to guess 6 weeks, if that. And I remember my first time on the bench, for example, picking it up and just with basic weight, the stuff you would warm up with, it hurt. I'm out of shape. It hurt. And I thought, my goodness. But by the second set, okay, I'm a little warmed up and now, it doesn't hurt as much. I realized in a very, very short period of time, that first set doesn't hurt anymore.
Right.
I also noticed that it's a lot lighter.
Right.
Kind of like things are coming back for me. Now I'm not the guy that's going to go in the gym and only do bench press. It's not about that. So I'm taking a full approach, focusing more on legs, because I believe that when you train the largest muscles in the body, that kind of stress creates the hormones that go everywhere.
You're correct. I've never heard anybody say that to me in a podcast. You're correct. And then your brain included. So brain health, people that are afraid of dementia, leg work. Don't skip brain day. That's what I tell my clients.
So for me, I'm noticing a rather quick return to strength and less pain. And also it's giving me a lot of my breath back that I'm even noticing on the pickleball court. And that's probably because when you're doing legs, by the time you're doing that last repetition with a heavy weight on, you've used all your oxygen, but every time you go back, it seems to push that further and further away, like your muscles and your body just has more oxygen to use now.
Right.
At what point I'm going to use a phrase I heard you use on another podcast. At what point is the runway too short?
The runway is too short when you die. But it gets shorter every year. So it's good to start as soon as possible if you haven't. And if you have started, don't stop. If you have a setback, get the physical therapy and jump back on that horse, because it is that little time. It's so little investment in time when you think about how many hours are in a week and only 3 hours are spent, doing that. Even if you go every day and go just for a half an hour, it's better than not doing anything or just doing cardio. Because cardio is great, and it is one of the components of aging well, is to have a good VO2 max, where you can walk a long ways and talk at the same time. And of course, sleep, sleep hygiene and eating a nutritious, mostly Mediterranean based, vegetarian or pescatarian, Mediterranean style diet. But lifting weights, I think, is the grand poobah of all of that, because it is what feeds it all. It puts it all together.
Yeah. There's one more component that I'm going to suggest is very, very important. That's the mental
Mhm.
aspect, the decision, the discipline.
Right.
And I think if you don't have that, you need to surround yourself with people that do.
Yes.
And that's another reason to have a trainer that has that mentality,
Yes.
because they do rub off on you and they inspire and they motivate you, and you become more like them
And you'll make
in that
friends at
sense.
the gym. You'll make friends that also like working out. So your social circle kind of morphs into that. I had to give up a circle of friends when I first went in on this journey. And to my first show, I had a habit of going after work and, having some beers and blowing off steam about work. And that was no longer conducive. I tried to go for a while, and because I liked everybody, great, but after a while it was like, I shouldn't be here. So yeah, you have to say goodbye sometimes or see you later. And, no hard feelings, but I need to make a change. And so there is that. And the mental part that's part of that.
You're listening to the DrHaley Show podcast, and I hope you're enjoying the show. As a thank you for listening, now through the end of 2024, use the coupon code 2024, that's 2024, for 15% off your entire purchase at HaleyNutrition.com. You could also use this coupon on the already discounted bundled items. For instance, if you're getting 3 of the greens or 3 of the proteins, you'll notice there's already a discount built into the price, taking an additional 15% off those. When you're checking out, if you don't have frozen aloe in your cart, you will notice there is a flat rate option, which is free in most circumstances. You have to choose it though. If you see UPS ground shipping, that's probably the default checked option. You can choose flat rate, and chances are we're going to ship it using that same UPS ground option. So keep an eye out for that when you're checking out. Now, back to the podcast. I want to circle back to this aging thing, because I was just thinking about the influence I had at a young age when it came to anti-aging. And what I like about what I read in this book was the concept. I don't think the authors necessarily went about it at the best way they could.
Mm-hmm.
And the authors were Durk, Pearson, and Sandy Shaw, who wrote this book called Life Extension.
Okay.
And both of them have passed already. I think they were born in 1943, but they wrote the book on life extension and, barely made it to 80. I think one passed at 78, Sandy Shaw, I believe, 78, 79 years older, whatever it was. And then Durk Pearson just last year. I definitely congratulate them on the concepts that they've developed and the fact that they literally use their bodies as experiments. If you don't know who I'm talking about, they literally just took handfuls every day of all kinds of vitamins, and this one's for this and this one's for that. So they felt that that was the key to anti-aging. But the concept is this. The concept is, what change can I make today to be younger tomorrow? So wait a second. I'm a certain age, this year I'm, 57. I'm going to be 58 in a couple of weeks. So a year from then I'll be 59. Is it possible I can actually be younger at 59 than I am at 58? That's the concept of life extension.
Yes.
How am I healthier a year from now instead of less healthy? Now, does it mean I'm going to live longer? I don't know how that works. Is our DNA programmed to stop at a certain time regardless of, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers to life.
Right.
But I do believe, like you said earlier, we have a lot of say in how we live. My grandmother, she passed. She was born in 1913, so it was years since she has passed. But she was very healthy, lived a very good, happy life. And one day we found her passed away in her chair. She looked very, very peaceful. She must have fallen asleep in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we all want to go.
Yeah.
We all want to live a happy, healthy life until we're not supposed to anymore.
Right.
The health it's an interesting thing because, we think, oh, wait a second, you're born and that's the healthiest, then you spend the rest of your life dying. I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's a point in time when things start going downhill,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we have a say in when that happens.
I do too.
Everyone has a say to some extent in when that happens.
Yes. There is genetic programming, but when it comes to illnesses and diseases that take us out, it's a very small percentage of the reason. If you live to be 50 and fairly healthy and disease-free and, still getting a decent report on your annual physical, then it really means that you've got a bill of goods that you can go a long way and kick that can down the road as long as you can by things that you decide to do today and change that up. So even if you have cancer in your family or dementia or something like that, and it's scary because you see the ravages of that, but you are doing everything that you can to take care of this machine that you live in, this biochemical machine that heals itself, by the way. I mean, what in the world? We have this body that never lies to us. It always tells the truth, and we want to not listen to it sometimes. And it is like my mind that said no. The little girl said no. Well, that is a very profound thing when you hear the voice of your own body saying, please take care of me. I can take you far. Don't just give up and don't get lazy and just status quo thinking. I mean, it's worth it. And you talk to a healthy 95-year-old who's been through it and said, yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that I took care of myself. And it doesn't mean being a bodybuilder, like you said earlier. It means doing right by yourself. That is the true essence of self-love.
Yeah. Unless you want to be a bodybuilder, then go for it.
Then go for it. I'm going to be on stage in my early 70s. I'm going back. I'm going to be on that stage.
Wow.
Why not?
People listening, go check out that blog post on your website. The photo, do you know how old you were in that particular photo?
It was my mid 60s.
My goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like a few years ago,
Stunning. Amazing.
Yeah.
Are there any tricks? What are some? I know there are some. For instance, people use, spray tan as an example. What are some of the tricks that they use to make you present so perfectly on stage?
Oh, yeah. There is a whole science behind that. It's fun. You can listen to a lot of the professional bodybuilders. They do little mini documentaries of their trail to the stage. And it's like, it's all very familiar. I mean, everybody does the same thing, but they're so amazing, that they do it too for their job, but
I have to say though, because I don't want to at all take away from what it took to get there.
Right.
That is hard work and dedication.
Yes.
And, only a few make it that far. What are some of the tricks though?
The tricks. Well, it's definitely thing with the diet is you eat very heartily and clean food, but heartily. You eat a lot of calories for a good length of time while you're building and you're trying to get bigger muscles. And then just the last weeks, then you start to play with carbs and fat, because some people do better having more carbs, less fat. So you start to kind of play with the different macronutrients, with protein pretty much staying nice and high. And that's what helps you drop the fat, keep the muscle. You want to go
I see.
slow, especially for us older folks, because if you lose weight, you've heard of Ozempic face or Ozempic
Yep.
butt. Well, because they lose the weight so quickly and they are not doing the other stuff, and sometimes because they're older. If somebody over 45 loses weight really fast, you end up getting really crepey, kind of droopy, saggy skin because you're so depleted, and it's the muscles that hold the skin up. So you want to go slow and let the skin adapt slowly. Only somebody who has been very obese and loses a lot of weight and has all that extra skin, then they have to have that surgically removed because it's just more than the body can correct. But you can have nice, tight skin if you go slowly, because the skin does show your health quite a bit. The other,
Wow.
that's one aspect. And the other one, yeah, before a show, we do get, fortunately nowadays, people used to go to tanning beds, which is terrible for you. But we do they keep improving it. The spray tans are really great. They don't stink anymore. You do like 6, 7, 8 coats and just, look like a powdered donut by the time you get everything sticks to you. So you have to be kind of careful. But yeah, you get really dark because that looks better on stage. So you will see bodybuilders looking very pale. They look great. They're muscular, but they aren't ready for the stage until they get coated with, that's just kind of a convention of the sport to have that tan. And then eating very strategically on stage day. Sometimes my trainer would say to me, all right, put on your suit. The show's tomorrow. Let me see how you look. Oh, you need to eat more peanut butter. You need more rice and some fish.
Yeah.
They can look at you objectively and see where something is getting filled out, or if you're, we call it being shrunk, so that you kind of get a little bit shrunken in and you want to be full. And then the last thing is water, because when you are very low carb and then you eat carbs, the first thing that the carbs do is rush to the muscle, because the muscle's a little bit depleted and the muscles love sugar. Muscles are a glycogen dump. I should say,
Storage.
yeah, it wants sugar. So when you drink water, where does the water go? It goes to the sugar, right?
Oh,
It binds. Well, you think of carbohydrate. What is carbo? It's hydrate. There's the word hydrate is in carbohydrate. What makes it
okay.
hydrated is the water. So you end up having kind of like a little bit shrunken, and then you eat sugar, and then all the water in your system goes to the muscle, and it makes your muscles swell and fill up. And that's,
Interesting.
yeah,
Now,
it's
are you able to hydrate, or is it just taking the water that's already in you?
you have to be, it depends on the person. It's very personal, and that's why it takes maybe a show or two for your trainer to know how your body exactly reacts, because everybody's a little different. Some people do better if they dehydrate a little bit before the show and then drink at the last minute. Some people do better if they're very even all the way along. And just depends on the person, because if you drink too much water, then you just kind of get a little bloated and a little puffy. So you have to be careful not to overdo it. You don't want to spill over. So just enough to make the muscles really as big as possible so that they look great on stage, right? And then you have to learn how to pose properly. Of course, there's certain compulsory poses that bodybuilders have to strike so that the judges have as much as it is possible to judge each physique and figure out which one is the most symmetrical, has the right attributes.
Now, I think one of the hardest parts of that would be keeping a smile on your face when you're actually growling.
Yeah,
Going,
it's
"Arr!"
some
I don't know how you do it.
some of the guys have a hard time. They end up looking like they're grimacing, or they're ready to like yell a battle shout or something. But it is it's very important to have that charm and that making it look easy. What you have to do is make eye contact with the judges and just smile at them and say, look at me. I look better than you.
And that's you bring up an interesting point. How important is the connection with the judges?
You have to remember that they're the ones making the decision, and you also have to not be intimidated by that. What helps a lot is the audience is going insane. So the audience is hooting and hollering and whistling and yelling people's names that are up there that they're there to see. So it's very rowdy and raucous. So that helps you kind of like get excited, and it's fun. It's funny. It's actually funny. But you can always contact the judges afterwards and say, okay, now that it's all over, give me some honest feedback. And they will say, well, your shoulders really came in, but you need to work on your lats. Or, you need to get a little bit more fullness in your quad, or they'll tell you. And so next year, that's what you work on.
That's pretty cool too. And it's definitely going to require some humility on your part to, say, hey, what do I need to improve? And then people start, but I've been working on these for what?
Yeah. No, yeah.
No.
Yeah. You have to definitely.
Don't ask if you don't want to know.
Yeah. You have to look at your body as a canvas, and you're creating art, and that they're an art critic. And they, they're not mean. They're not saying, well, you look terrible. They're just like, well, if you ask.
No, if you did, you wouldn't be there if you did.
Right.
Wow. Well, where should people go to find out more? Your website is Ignite Fitness.
Yeah. It's ignitefitnesswithjanet.com. It's all one word, ignitefitnesswithjanet.com. And then I have a YouTube. I'm just starting a YouTube channel. So if you subscribe now, I think I have 4 followers.
All right.
And I'm going to be
5.
Posting regularly. I'm working with a social media person. And so my YouTube is Longevity Life Quest, all one word, Longevity Life Quest. And my Instagram is Janet McConnell Speaks _.
Great. Now, do you have a call to action, such as, do you have a newsletter that people can sign up for, or not yet?
Not yet. No, I don't have that yet. I have a book. You can see the book on my website, Elements of Aging Well, My Journey So Far. So if you go onto Amazon and type in Elements of Aging Well, you'll recognize the person on the thumbnail. So that's my book.
And I'll make sure that there's links to the book on Amazon in the description here. And we'll put links to your website and to your YouTube channel and your Instagram channel. Janet, thank you so much. You are inspiring. You're amazing. You're beautiful. Keep it up. Keep on aging well and teaching others to do the same. Is there anything you wish I had asked?
I just think, my call to action, if it's anything to people, is aging is inevitable, but decay is optional.
I like it.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Haley. I appreciate this time with you.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that episode today on the Dr. Haley Show. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you are listening to this. If this episode made you think of someone, go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this exact episode with them. You can catch the show notes for this episode on www.drhaley.com. If you want to geek out with Dr. Michael Haley on other radical health topics, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he posts exclusive video content. All the details are at www.drhaley.com, and we can't wait to hang out with you on the next episode.